Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I just got gas and I'm headed across town to actually work on a buddy's car. A lot of my friends will usually do like a little bit of their own stuff on their cars, but if they ever get stuck, like what happened today, then they'll usually call me for help. So my buddy was saying the other week that he thought his spark plugs were going bad. The way he was describing it to me, I was like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like that could be it. And he said he's never done a spark plug, so he was gonna do them, and I was like, cool. And then he said it got really bad. So he probably should have done it sooner than later, because I'm guessing when it got really bad is when this happened. Let's head across town and I'll tell you about it. I make this U-turn and tell you all about it. Okay, so when it got really bad, he said that they were taking the spark plugs out. They got down to it because it's hard to get down to it. So if you can even get to the spark plugs on a Honda Fit, then you're somewhat mechanically inclined. Well, when they got down to it, they noticed that one of them was blown out. I've never fixed one on a Honda Fit. I just did one the other week on a Triton motor. Those are the most common, but it's not uncommon on these Honda Fits, so I'll show you how to fix that. I've got the one toolkit I'm gonna need to fix it. Hopefully I can have this done in a couple hours at most. Okay, so I just got here. Here's the Honda Fit. I'm looking, the cowl right there, the windshield wipers have already been removed. And then it's most common on cylinders 2 and 3. Cylinder number 2 is the one we've got the coil pulled out of. I can't show you with this camera very well, but let me put this back there and show you what's going on. Right about there. Okay, so you can see that there's something in the way of the spark plug. It looks like the spark plug hasn't been removed yet, so I'm guessing that maybe it did blow up and out and remove those threads, and then everything just kind of stayed down in there, so I've got to get that out. Okay, I've got it. That plastic came with it. I was able to just grab it with some pliers, but this right there was chilling down on the side of the spark plug. That was keeping, I'm guessing, anyone from getting that out since it was still in there. Okay, yeah, no threads though, for sure. We'll check them. Here we go. Let's see. Any threads? There's a... Oh. Stripped out thread just fell down into the cylinder. We got the valves open too, so I'm gonna go down into the cylinder now. I'm gonna crank the motor so that's the valves are closed. That's at the bottom, the piston is, and then we'll go down in there and check. Now that I know something's in there though, I'm gonna crank it by hand. I wouldn't do that usually with the starter anyways, because you just have to do it so many times, but definitely since something's in there. I saw a little thread coil, looked like a little spring circle fall down. All right, we got a nut on the front of the alternator there. I'm gonna grab that. That should turn the whole motor. Bigger than a 19, that was gotta be a 22. 21 maybe, or maybe 24. Probably 22 though. Oh, 24. Yeah. That's not gonna be too big. That'll be nice and thin. Okay, now let's watch these valves as I just turn this clockwise. See that piston start to go down? Just do that a few times till those valves close. Those valves moving now. There they go. Okay, this one's not gonna be easy to film. I'll show you what I'm doing from right here. Just a fun one to do. We've been here maybe 20-30 minutes. It took a while to get that spark plug out. I just removed this coil because it's just going to be easier to get my hand in there, and it's going to remind me to do all of the spark plugs and coils. I didn't buy the coils. I would have just replaced the one probably, but they have a pack of 4 new coils, so we're going to go ahead and replace all 4. And yeah, but one of the things I'm worried about is putting the cover back on. It looks a lot like the ones on the Prius, so I'm guessing I can figure it out, but I didn't take it off, and stuff like that can get kind of tricky. Well, hopefully I'm only here for like maybe an hour more max. I think I can be done in like 30 to 45 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so let's take a quick closer look at the kit I'm using. It's just an OEM's tool spark plug repair kit. In fact, I want to make sure these threads fit the spark plugs we have before I put them in. I can test that insert. When it comes to the Fords, I use that specific kit they make. I showed in the last video. Check it out. Yeah, it's going in backwards, but that's fine. That's the right size, so we're good to install that. But whenever it just comes to like any other spark plug repair kit, the OEM tools kit, so right there, their spark plug repair system. This one works pretty well. So what this does basically, this small one is the size of the hole that's already in there. It's going to go in to those existing threads that barely exist, and then it's going to remount a larger hole and then add threads to that. Those threads are the size of this insert, so I'm going to put the insert in, and then after it's in, I'm going to use the punch right here to pop these knurls into the aluminum head a little bit. But before I do that, I am going to apply Loctite. So we'll give her the double whammy on the lock job there, so this should never come back out. Okay, so now I've got this piece. Let's just go ahead, pop it in there. This should remount. It's a 19mm. Getting this down in that hole, I don't want to drop it though. That's going to be a little tricky. Maybe I'll put some paper towel in this socket and you can go ahead and use that. Oh, I don't think I brought paper towel with me. Always a spare trash one laying around though. Shoot. Nice and tight, yeah. I'm gonna cut my fingers, that's so tight. Okay, yeah, way tight. That ain't going nowhere. I'll lower this down now. That socket's too wide. We are gonna need a 1/4 inch socket, or I'm gonna have to get a grinder attachment. I think the socket's not fitting in that hole. I'm gonna have to go get a different size socket. Dang. Yeah. Whoa. Is this tool even gonna fit? And if so, barely. This socket's way too thick. I've got to come up with something else. Okay, so that sun's probably right behind my head. It's been about 5 minutes and I've got two options I've come up with. The 19mm socket won't fit in that hole, and it's a 19mm. Well, I guess there's three options. I could try it. I could go back to my truck and see if I have a thinner walled 19mm socket, but along that note, I could also just make this socket thin with a grinder and a sandpaper attachment. That would compromise my socket though, so what I'm thinking is this 17mm socket fits perfectly in the hole. I was like trying the 5/8 and whatnot. I mean, no wiggle there. The 5/8 had some wiggle, so I was like, let me try the other ones. I thought maybe it would be a 16. So I think my best option is to take this back to my truck and grind this down carefully to a 17mm. So it'll fit in the 17mm socket. So that's gonna add a half hour at least of work. I'm gonna have to go across town and back, so another 20-30 minutes. But I think that's the best and most sensible option. So I'll check back in when I'm doing it. Okay, yeah, 10 to 20 minutes, probably about 10-15 minutes later, I got this to fit perfectly into the 17mm. I just had it on my grinder with my sander attachment here, just one turn at a time. I did all 6 sides every time, and then I would cool it down for maybe 5 to 10 seconds on a side, so I did them all evenly, and that came out great. Okay, so I've got the cutter in now. I just gave it a little tappy tap tap, and it's cutting, so that socket barely squeezed in there like planned. And I wish you could feel that. It's such a satisfying feeling. But anyways, I'm gonna need to do this all the way through that ream, all the way up to the next set of threads. So it's gonna be a minute. Okay, so here's my tool. Here's the 17mm. Here's something I didn't know. I have another, that's a 19. I have another 17mm right here. Let me show you what happened. So I got that going down into the hole and it got really tight, and I was like, daggum, we're cutting some threads, you know? And turns out when the socket gets that exact depth right there, the hole gets just too small for it. I didn't notice that before because I was like, oh, it fits perfect, you know? So I got down to here, which barely started cutting, and then my socket jammed up, and I've been out here for like 20-30 minutes stressed trying to get the socket out. I finally got some oil down on there and just spun it in reverse a bunch, and it worked its way back out. So I'm going to have to size it down to a 16 now. So I might be back this afternoon or tomorrow. But I couldn't even get it cut with the 17. Again, I'm not gonna cut my socket. That doesn't make sense. Regardless of what I have to do, I'm gonna have to cut something. So I'm gonna go cut that tool again, just down to a 16mm. So I'll check back when I'm back. Okay, I'm back, and if it's a 16mm now. Oh, I'll put a rag in there already. I was like, it's not sliding in easy. Yeah, that's 16. So the 16 should slide down in no problem all the way to the bottom. Let's go ahead and give this another try. See how that works? It goes in like, that's the original size, and then as you screw it down, these cut it up to this bigger size, basically. Yeah, yeah. So. Most hoods have a second spot. That's for mechanics, is what it's considered. It's not more.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that earlier. Better. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, I've been blowing that out for a few minutes. I've got some brake clean down there to clean out all that oil, try to get all that out. We're gonna crank the motor over and help that spray out in a minute. I wanted to start the camera though because the third cylinder spark plug, they normally have issues on cylinders 2 and 3 like they said. Third cylinder was hand tight, not even hand tight, it was already loose. So let's get in on number 4 now. Number 4 had the coil boot rip apart, so that took longer just to get those off, but I got them off without ripping anymore. So oh yeah, that's how tight that one was, hand tight also. Okay, here's our cylinder there. See if I can get my shadow over this so you can see. And we got everything out. We're in good shape. That way. There was like 2 little pieces of thread that were down in there, like 2 little coils of wire looking almost, but finally those came out. So I was doing that while I took out the other spark plugs in. Right by the time I got finished, it probably was about 8 or 10 different times of blowing that full tank through there. Came out. Okay, I've got the other 3 spark plugs put in hand tight. I'm gonna go ahead and put this insert, I guess it's how am I supposed to put this all the way in and then take it out to bang it? I'm not sure now. I guess I'm gonna tighten this down by hand or a little tight and pull it out, and hopefully this insert stays behind, and then we'll dink it. Yeah, because there's not a good installation tool for this. Okay, looks like the insert stayed behind. No, damn, that's the insert right there. It's plenty of Loctite. Okay. Stay behind. Let's make sure it's screwed in far enough.
How come switching to the old?
When I screwed it on, it went on a lot easier. Like there was not much resistance, so I was hoping maybe there would just be more resistance. Yeah, in the other. But my question is it all the way down though?
Right.
Pull this thing back out. That looks like it's down all the way. Yeah, there's that lip, so. Okay, so that's the insert right there. It's all the way down. You can see a little bit of blue Loctite there. I used a different spark plug because the new one had so much resistance that when I pulled it out, that old plug came with it. So the insert, I guess. So I put an old one on. It didn't have much resistance on the insert, and the insert stayed behind. So let's go ahead and spread it out now. Okay, update. This job's getting seriously complicated. It's a lot more complicated than the versions you can find online for like the 09 model. I've already had to modify the tool that we were using. This won't fit, well, it will fit. It's going in the spark plug hole, but it's too short. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is just tape this up real thick to this so they don't come apart, and I'll just use this to lengthen it. You could do the same thing. You could get one of these that's longer, but I don't even know if they make those. Regardless, you're gonna have to modify this kit almost completely to get this job done, but you can get it done. Okay, here's what I've come up with. That's gonna let me pull it out of the hole, no problem. And let's see how far it would have actually gone had I let it go. Yep, too far to retrieve for sure. All right, let's run that with a little 3-pound mallet right here a few times and put it back together. Okay, let's see if this goes, is what we're saying. Easy. Smooth.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there you go.
Hell yeah.
That's nice. All right, so I got everything back in place, and this ran like a dream. You know I gave my buddy a big discount, so make sure you're subscribed down below. Check out this next video, and I'll see you there. I think that's it. Let's get the wipers on now. We got the VTEC in here.